In this video, I'm going to talk about deck building in Shadespire for beginners. Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time you've watched this channel, thank you very much for joining me. Why not consider subscribing and click the bell notification down below so you don't miss any more uploads and especially more Shadespire content. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about deck building for Shadespire, particularly aimed at beginners. And that's because a lot of people are coming to this game not having any deck building knowledge and are potentially a little bit worried about what deck building means. So this is by no means building a competitive deck or building the top tier decks. This just gives you a little bit insight about how to start building your deck. So first of all, let's start with your warband. When you choose your warband, you must decide how you want to play that warband. So for example, if you're playing the Stormcast warband, you should potentially look at making this a very defensive warband. You only have 3 models, and by playing quite defensively in the early part of the game, upgrading your characters with extra weapons, and then becoming more attacking in the second part of the game, this will probably give you the best bang for your buck. With that in mind, you then have to build your deck to support that playstyle. So let's start with the objective cards. You must have 12, no more and no less. When it comes to objective cards, these are your main method of scoring glory points, outside of just killing your opponent. There's 3 main types of objective card. There's score immediately, there's score at the end of this turn, and score at the end of the 3rd turn. The ones that score immediately are probably the most useful because they can be used at any point during the game. The ones that score at the end of the 3rd turn tend to be the ones that will earn you the most glory points, so it's worth putting 1 or 2 of them into your 12 pile. In the main, you're going to be looking at the score at the end of the turn ones. So make sure you choose some that you can benefit from. So we can begin by looking through the Stormcast objective cards that are exclusive to the Stormcast warband and can't be used by anybody else. It's worth looking through those first and taking out any that you think don't support your method of play. So for example, with Stormcast, you want to put in cards that will gain you glory points either from being very defensive, for example not losing any heroes, or will gain you glory points from the attack in the later game. Next of all, then look through all of the universal objective cards and see again if there's anything there that will support how you're going to play your warband. Next we need to build the rest of the deck. Now the rest of the deck has to have a minimum of 20 cards, and half of those need to be ploy cards. Now one thing a few people seem to be missing is your deck needs to consist of a minimum of 20 cards. It can have more. Now the Games Workshop sleeves that come for the game only have enough to have 20 cards in this deck, so some people may get confused and think that that's all you can have. The reason you may want more cards is you may not be able to whittle it down to a 20 card deck. You may have 22 or 24, which means in that case, why not put those extra few cards in? The negative side of having a bigger deck means that you'll only get to play so many cards in your hand, and actually you then bring down the likelihood that the cards you need will come out into your hand at the times you need them. So this is a fine balancing act and something I think we'll learn over time. So let's start with the upgrades. Again, we want to look at upgrades that are unique to the warband to start with, as these can't be used by any other warband anyway. So we will really see some benefits. Have a look at the upgrades for particular characters. Do you really want to take 2 or 3 upgrades for one particular character, or do you want to try and spread them out so that all of your characters can have upgrades? Sometimes it's not worth upgrading one character to this all-powerful person, because what might happen is you then have to charge him in and you can't use the rest of your activations with him. So choose your upgrades wisely. Next of all, look at the universal upgrades. Now it may be that you need to compensate for something that is lacking in your warband. So for example, the Sepulchral Guard aren't particularly quick. You may want to use some of these upgrade cards to gain some extra speed or gain some movement benefit. By the same method, the Khorne Blood Reavers aren't particularly robust, so you may want to give them the cards that give you extra wounds. So if we're aiming for a deck of 20, you need to have 10 upgrade cards. Once you've reached 10, then move on to your ploy cards. Again, start with your ploy cards, looking at the ones that are relevant for your particular faction. The ploy cards that have reaction on them are particularly useful because these happen at a very specific point in time. You don't have to wait for the end of the activation to play them or at the end of a turn. So once you've built your deck, you're ready to start playing your games. Don't worry too much in the early days, we're all starting out at the same point, and at some point, if you really don't enjoy the deck building, I'm sure you'll find online some really good write-ups by much better players than me. They'll tell you exactly which cards work best with each warband. Just enjoy the game, play around with it, and switch cards out, find out which ones can help you, and find out which ones you never really ever seem to be able to play. And you'll find and you get a feel for the game, and you'll build your own decks that way. Don't be put off by the deck building element of the game. This is actually part of the tactics, and is kind of along the same lines as when you list build in 40k or Age of Sigmar. So just have some fun with it. So there we have it, folks. That's just the first little introduction to complete beginners to deck building games on how you should maybe approach building your deck. I'm sure there's many other ways to do it, and I'm sure there's better ways to do it as well. So if you've got any thoughts about it, leave a note down in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.